He had always loved living by the river. The gentle sound of water flowing, the cool breeze that passed through the trees, and the soft hum of nature made his small home feel like a sanctuary. Years ago, when he first moved to this quiet area, the land on both sides of the river was untouched, peaceful, and private. He could walk along the riverbank, watch birds dance in the sunlight, and enjoy the rare feeling of solitude that many people spend their entire lives searching for. But there was one problem. The river cut the land into two pieces, and crossing from one side to the other was not easy. There were times he had to wade through shallow water, balance on slippery rocks, or take long detours to reach the other side. It was inconvenient, but he never complained because he loved the peace more than anything. One spring, he decided to build a small bridge. It was simple, made of wood that he collected himself and carefully treated to withstand water and weather. He wanted it only for his own use, for his family to walk safely across, and for carrying supplies without difficulty. It was never meant for anyone else. The bridge was narrow, sturdy, and practical, exactly what he needed. When he finished it, he felt a sense of pride he had not experienced in a long time. It was his creation, a small piece of comfort and convenience in a life that he had worked hard to build. He could now move freely between the two sides of his property without worry. It was perfect. At first, everything was exactly as he wanted. His family used the bridge, he crossed it himself daily, and life went on peacefully. But soon, he noticed neighbors wandering near his property. They would stop and watch the bridge curiously, sometimes asking polite questions. He would smile and explain that it was private, meant only for his family, and gently ask them not to cross. Most people respected his words. They admired the bridge, the craftsmanship, and the effort he had put into it. They would nod politely, step back, and leave. He felt happy that people could appreciate his work without taking advantage of it. But as the months passed, more people began to notice the bridge. Word seemed to travel fast in the small community. Friends of friends, neighbors from the next village, and sometimes complete strangers would appear at the edge of his property. Some would ask permission, and some would simply walk across without asking at all. At first, he tolerated it. He thought perhaps it was harmless, just people curious to see the bridge. He reminded himself that the bridge was small and sturdy, and it seemed unlikely that anyone would cause damage just by crossing. So he let it slide. However, the visits started to increase. Every day, more people came. In the morning, he would see footprints on the dirt path leading to the bridge. By afternoon, children would be running across, laughing loudly and sometimes throwing small stones into the river. Vehicles occasionally followed, and he saw tire marks on the ground where he had carefully maintained the grass. It was no longer a peaceful, private space. The bridge he had built for himself and his family was slowly becoming a thoroughfare for everyone else. Each time someone used it without permission, he felt a pang of frustration, but he kept quiet. Hoping that it would eventually stop, he started placing small signs. Gentle reminders that the bridge was private property. "Private bridge, family use only," he wrote in clear letters and posted them at both ends. For a short time, it seemed to help. Some people looked at the signs and went away. But others ignored them, pretending not to see or laughing at the idea that someone would put up such a notice. The signs were no longer enough. People continued to cross the bridge daily, treating it as if it belonged to the whole village. With each passing day, the situation became more stressful. The bridge was not built for heavy use. It was strong for family use, but it was not designed to hold the weight of vehicles, bicycles, and groups of people at the same time. He started noticing wear and tear, small cracks forming in the wood, the handrails loosening slightly, and the planks creaking more than they used to. Each sound of strain made his stomach tighten. He worried about safety, worried that one day the bridge might collapse under too much weight. The thought of someone getting hurt on his bridge made him restless at night. He tried to imagine solutions, thinking of politely speaking to the people, putting up fences, or asking local authorities to intervene. But each morning brought new footprints, new laughter, new violations of his property. It felt overwhelming. Despite the growing problem, he still tried to approach the situation calmly. He walked to the bridge, when he saw people approaching and asked them nicely to respect his property. He explained the dangers, the cost of repairs, and the fact that it was meant only for his family. Sometimes people apologized and left. Sometimes they nodded politely but returned the next day. And sometimes they laughed, saying, "It's just a bridge. Why so serious?" Each encounter left him more frustrated, more anxious, and more determined to protect what was rightfully his. The stress began to affect his daily life. He no longer enjoyed sitting by the river, no longer enjoyed the simple pleasure of morning walks. Every sound of laughter or footsteps near the bridge made him tense. He even started avoiding the bridge at certain times, knowing people would be there. His home, once a sanctuary, now felt invaded. The peace he had cherished was slipping away, replaced by frustration and helplessness. He realized that he could no longer ignore the situation. Something had to be done, or his sanctuary would be lost entirely as spring turned into summer. The traffic on the bridge reached its peak. More and more families, friends, and strangers were crossing daily. Sometimes children would run and jump on the bridge, testing its strength. Vehicles with overloaded goods would rumble across, shaking the wooden planks. One afternoon, he witnessed a man trying to force a small cart across, the weight bending the middle section slightly. Fear and anger surged through him. He ran out, shouting, waving his hands, and telling the man to stop. The man looked at him as if he were overreacting and continued until the planks cracked slightly under the cart. It was a moment that terrified him. If the bridge had failed completely, someone could have been hurt. He knew then that simply asking politely would no longer be enough. That evening, he sat by the riverbank, staring at the bridge he had once been proud of. It looked smaller, weaker, and less special than before. The joy of creation was gone, replaced by anxiety. He reflected on the months of patience, the signs, the warnings, the polite requests that had been ignored. He thought about the risks, the potential injuries, and the destruction of his property. His mind raced with possible actions. He could try speaking to people again, stronger this time. He could call the authorities, or he could take matters into his own hands, protecting the bridge before it was too late. The decision weighed heavily on him because he was not someone who liked conflict. He had always avoided arguments, preferred understanding, and believed in calm solutions. But this situation had forced him to face a reality he had never imagined. He spent the night making a plan. He considered temporary barriers, ropes, or even a small gate that could stop vehicles and strangers. He thought about documenting every violation, taking photos and notes, so that if anyone questioned him, he would have proof of the repeated misuse. He thought about the words he would need to say to neighbors and officials to make them understand the seriousness of the situation. He also considered the risks of confrontation, knowing that some people might react angrily. Despite the worry, he felt a strange sense of determination. For the first time, he realized that protecting his sanctuary was worth the discomfort of standing up for himself. By morning, he had made a decision. He would no longer rely on politeness and hope. He would act to protect the bridge, his family, and the peace he had built. But he knew he had to do it carefully, legally, and safely. He spent the day preparing signs, ropes, and a plan to block unauthorized access while still allowing safe use for his family. He wanted to prevent accidents, not create conflict, but he was prepared to face resistance. He also started writing down a clear message to the community, explaining the importance of respecting private property, dangers of misuse, and the effort that went into building the bridge. He hoped that reason and explanation could still reach people, even if actions had to follow words. As evening fell, he finally stepped back and looked at the bridge. It was still the same small structure he had built months ago, but it felt different now. It was no longer just a convenience or a proud creation. It was a symbol of boundaries, responsibility, and respect. He knew the coming days would not be easy, that some people would be upset, and that confrontation was likely. But he also knew that he could not allow anyone to continue endangering the bridge or himself. His peace, safety, and dignity were at stake. For the first time in months, he felt a flicker of hope. He would act, but with care. He would protect his bridge, and in doing so, reclaim the sanctuary that had been slowly slipping away. It was the beginning of a journey that would test patience, courage, and resolve. The quiet man by the river had reached the moment where he could no longer ignore what was happening. The bridge, once a simple wooden structure for personal use, had become the center of a struggle that demanded action, and he was ready to face it. He had tried to be patient. He had tried to be polite. He had tried to explain and ask gently. But after months of watching strangers cross his bridge without care or concern, he realized patience alone was not enough. Every day the bridge showed signs of wear, and every day more people ignored his requests. He could no longer watch from the sidelines and hope the problem would fix itself. It was time to take action, but he wanted to do it carefully. He did not want unnecessary conflict, yet he had to protect what was his. He began by documenting everything. Each morning he would take a walk along the bridge and the surrounding area, noting every mark, every footprint, and every small crack in the wood. He took photographs, carefully recording the date and time. Vehicles had left deep tracks in the grass and dirt paths leading to the bridge. Children had left toys, broken sticks, and sometimes even graffiti on the handrails. It was heartbreaking to see the bridge, once a symbol of peace, slowly turning into something else entirely. The careful documentation helped him organize his thoughts. He wanted evidence in case things escalated and someone tried to blame him for accidents or damages. He also revisited the signs he had put up earlier. They were polite and gentle, but now he knew he needed something stronger. He created new signs, larger, clearer, and harder to ignore. They read, "Private property bridge, use restricted to family only. Violators are responsible for any damage." Place them at both ends, making sure they were visible from a distance. He hoped that the message would be understood, but he did not expect everyone to obey immediately. Some people might ignore the signs, but at least he had taken steps to make his boundaries clear. Despite his preparations, he faced resistance almost immediately. A group of young men came to the bridge one morning, laughing and joking as if they owned the place. He stepped forward, trying to explain that it was private property and they should not cross. They ignored him, waving him off and saying it was a small bridge and not worth worrying about. He felt a surge of frustration but remained calm. He explained again, pointing to the signs and describing the potential risks. The men finally left, but he knew they would return. This pattern continued with different people almost every day. Some apologized, some argued, and some simply ignored him. Each encounter tested his patience, but he refused to give up. The situation started affecting his family as well. They had once enjoyed crossing the bridge safely and peacefully, but now it was stressful. Every time they walked across, they had to be cautious, watching for strangers, children, or even animals. They could no longer enjoy the simple pleasure of using the bridge without worry. He felt guilty for bringing his family into a problem that had grown larger than expected. But he knew that protecting them was more important than avoiding conflict. The safety of those he loved outweighed his desire to stay quiet and avoid confrontation. One afternoon, the situation reached a tipping point. A heavy cart, loaded with goods, was being pushed across the bridge. The planks bent dangerously under the weight, making loud creaking sounds. He rushed out, shouting for the person to stop. The cart rolled forward anyway, causing one of the planks to crack. The sound echoed across the river, making his heart pound. For the first time, fear overwhelmed his frustration. He realized that if the bridge had collapsed entirely, someone could have been seriously injured. This moment crystallized his determination. He could no longer rely on words alone. He needed a plan to prevent accidents and assert his boundaries. He decided to involve the local authorities. He walked to the nearest office and explained the situation in detail. He brought his photographs and documentation to show the repeated misuse of the bridge. He explained the safety risks, the damages, and the fact that the bridge was private property. The officials listened patiently, taking notes and promising to look into the matter. He felt a small sense of relief, knowing that the authorities now had a record of the problem. But he also knew that bureaucratic processes could be slow. He could not wait indefinitely for them to act. Returning home, he began building additional protections. He placed temporary barriers at the ends of the bridge, creating a controlled entry that allowed his family to pass safely, but made it more difficult for unauthorized people. He installed ropes and small gates, making sure the bridge could still be used safely by those allowed, but discouraging misuse. It was a delicate balance. He did not want to completely block the bridge, fearing it would create anger or resentment in the community. But he also had to protect his property and the people who relied on him for safety. The next few weeks were challenging. Some people were upset by the new barriers. They argued, complained, and even tried to remove the ropes. He remained calm, explaining politely but firmly that the bridge was private and the measures were necessary for safety. Some understood while others continued to push boundaries. He learned to deal with frustration without anger, realizing that staying calm was more effective than reacting emotionally. Each small confrontation taught him patience, resilience, and the importance of clear communication. Meanwhile, he continued to maintain the bridge. He repaired cracks, reinforced weak spots, and replaced worn planks. It was exhausting work, but it gave him a sense of control over the situation. He knew that if the bridge failed, the consequences could be serious. By keeping it in good condition, he not only protected his family but also demonstrated responsibility to the community. He hoped that seeing his efforts would encourage others to respect the bridge and understand its importance. Over time, Hadi began to notice a shift. People started to slow down when approaching the bridge, read the signs more carefully, and, in some cases, asked permission before crossing. It was not perfect, and there were still occasional violations, but the overall behavior began to improve. His consistent, calm, and firm approach was gradually making an impact. The bridge was no longer completely overrun, and the immediate danger of accidents had decreased. He felt a cautious sense of optimism, knowing that his actions were working. Even if progress was slow, he also took the opportunity to educate others about the importance of respecting private property. He spoke to neighbors, shared stories of the damage and risks, and explained the time and effort involved in building and maintaining the bridge. Some people listened and changed their behavior. Others remained indifferent, but at least they were aware of the issues. He realized that communication, combined with clear boundaries, was essential in resolving conflicts and maintaining safety. Despite the improvements, he knew the battle was far from over. The bridge remained a point of tension in the community, and he had to remain vigilant. Each day required attention, care, and sometimes confrontation, but he also learned important lessons about responsibility, courage, and the value of standing up for oneself. He discovered a strength within himself that he had never realized before, a quiet determination that allowed him to face challenges without losing his composure. As summer turned to autumn, the bridge slowly began to regain some of its original purpose. His family could walk across safely, carry supplies without fear, and enjoy moments of peace. The barriers, signs, and ongoing vigilance created a controlled environment where safety and respect were prioritized. He felt a growing sense of relief, knowing that he had taken the necessary steps to protect his property and loved ones. Yet he remained aware of the fragility of the situation. One careless act, one ignored warning, could undo all his efforts. He knew he had to continue monitoring the bridge, maintaining its structure, and reinforcing boundaries. The experience had changed him. He was no longer the quiet, passive observer he had been months ago. He had become an active protector of his home and family, learning to balance patience, firmness, and assertiveness in the face of challenges. Through this journey, he also developed a deeper understanding of community dynamics. He realized that people often act out of convenience, ignorance, or habit rather than malice. By documenting, explaining, and demonstrating responsibility, he could influence behavior positively. He learned to anticipate problems, address them proactively, and maintain a calm demeanor even in the face of resistance. These lessons extended beyond the bridge, shaping his approach to other aspects of life and interactions with neighbors. Looking back on the months of struggle, he felt a mixture of exhaustion and pride. Exhaustion from the constant vigilance, the repairs, and the confrontations. Pride in having taken control of the situation, protected his family, and maintained his integrity. The bridge, once a simple structure, had become a symbol of resilience, responsibility, and the importance of standing up for what is right. He knew that the lessons learned would stay with him for a lifetime, shaping his approach to challenges and his understanding of personal boundaries. As the leaves changed color and the river reflected the golden light of autumn, he stood on the bridge, looking across the water. The bridge was no longer overrun, the signs were clear, and his family could move safely. He took a deep breath, feeling a sense of accomplishment. The journey was far from over, but he had taken significant steps to reclaim his sanctuary. The struggle had been difficult, but it had strengthened him, taught him patience, and reinforced the importance of clear boundaries and proactive action. The bridge, once a source of stress and anxiety, had become a symbol of perseverance, careful planning, and the quiet power of standing up for oneself. The morning sun rose gently over the river, painting the water with streaks of gold and silver. For him, the view that once brought only peace now carried a subtle tension. Every sound, every movement near the bridge caused his heart to beat faster. He had grown accustomed to vigilance, and that day was no different. Yet he did not anticipate what would happen next. It started with a noise, the loud rumble of wheels on wood. His stomach sank. A vehicle, heavier than anything he had seen cross the bridge before, was approaching. He ran toward it, shouting, waving his arms, but the driver seemed indifferent. The cart's weight pressed down on the planks, which groaned under the strain. His heart raced, and he feared the worst. One wrong move could have caused a disaster. The vehicle made it across, but the damage was clear. A plank had cracked, and the bridge swayed slightly under the weight. The driver shrugged as if it were no big deal, and continued on his way. He stood there, hands trembling, staring at the bridge he had built and nurtured. This incident was a turning point. He realized that despite his efforts to communicate, protect, and educate, some people simply did not care. Words alone were not enough. Action had to follow. He took a deep breath, knowing that from that moment on his approach would have to be more assertive. The bridge was not just a wooden structure. It had become a symbol of boundaries, respect, and personal responsibility. That afternoon, he began assessing the bridge more carefully. Every plank, every joint, every nail was inspected. He noted weaknesses, potential hazards, and areas that could fail if misused again. It was painstaking work, but necessary. He knew that if another heavy vehicle attempted to cross, the consequences could be severe. He measured the weight limits, calculated the strain on each section, and planned reinforcements. The bridge had to be safe for his family and strong enough to discourage reckless use. This was not just about protecting property. It was about preventing accidents and ensuring no one got hurt. After careful thought, he implemented more permanent measures. He reinforced weak planks with additional supports and added thicker ropes along the sides to guide users and prevent accidents. A gate was installed at one end, allowing controlled access. He also posted clear, larger signs that emphasized safety and private use. The message could not be ignored. The bridge was for family use only, and any misuse carried risks. This time, he felt more prepared. The combination of structural reinforcements and clear boundaries was designed to protect both the bridge and the people around it. Despite the improvements, the human element remained challenging. Some people still approached the bridge, testing limits, asking questions, and sometimes challenging his authority. He responded with calm firmness, explaining the risks, showing the repairs, and reminding them of the signs. Each conversation was a delicate balance. He had to maintain authority without escalating anger or creating hostility. Some understood, some argued, but gradually people began to see the bridge differently. The respect he demanded was slowly taking root. The bridge was no longer just a convenient crossing. It had become a structure that commanded responsibility. The experience also revealed the fragility of trust and community respect. He had always believed that neighbors would understand and cooperate if approached politely. This assumption was tested repeatedly. Some people acted out of habit, convenience, or ignorance, crossing without permission and ignoring warnings. Others challenged him openly, testing boundaries to see if he would back down. He realized that assumptions about human behavior could be misleading. Patience and clear communication were essential, but they were not always sufficient. He had to combine reason, action, and precaution to achieve real results. Family life became intertwined with the challenge of the bridge. Every crossing required caution, observation, and awareness. Children had to be careful, adults had to guide them, and everyone had to remain alert. What once was a simple task became a lesson in responsibility. He found himself explaining to his family the importance of boundaries, the risks of ignoring rules, and the need to respect others' property. These conversations, though born of frustration, became opportunities for growth and understanding. His family learned the value of vigilance, communication, and caution. Lessons that would extend beyond the bridge into everyday life. One day, he witnessed an incident that shook him deeply. A stranger, unaware of the new gate and ropes, tried to rush across the bridge. The planks groaned, the ropes strained, and for a moment he feared collapse. He ran forward, stopping the person just in time. The fear, anger, and adrenaline mixed, leaving him exhausted. Yet this incident reinforced the importance of his measures. The bridge could not be left to chance. Vigilance, preparation, and clear rules were the only way to prevent accidents. The experience strengthened his resolve. He could not afford to relax or assume people would automatically follow rules. As the weeks went by, he began to notice subtle changes. People slowed down when approaching the bridge, read the signs more carefully, and in some cases asked permission before crossing. While not everyone obeyed immediately, the overall behavior began to improve. It was a small victory, but a victory nonetheless. The combination of structural reinforcement, clear signage, and calm assertiveness was working. He felt a cautious sense of optimism, knowing that his actions were making a difference. Even if the journey was far from complete, the bridge also became a symbol in the community, though in unexpected ways. Some people admired the care, effort, and determination he put into protecting it. They saw the bridge not just as wood and rope, but as a reflection of commitment, responsibility, and courage. Others, still frustrated by restrictions, continued to test limits, but the bridge's message was clear. It was a lesson in respect, boundaries, and the importance of considering others. Slowly, the narrative surrounding the bridge shifted from convenience to responsibility. In addition to physical and social measures, it took time to educate. He spoke to neighbors about safety, the dangers of overloading the bridge, and the effort involved in maintaining it. He shared stories of near accidents and the work required to keep the bridge functional. These conversations, though sometimes challenging, helped build understanding. Some neighbors adjusted their behavior, while others became more aware of the consequences of their actions. The bridge was no longer just a private structure. It had become a teaching tool, a reminder of accountability and foresight. Throughout this period, he also reflected on personal growth. The bridge, initially a simple project, had become a test of character, patience, and resilience. He discovered inner strength, learned to balance firmness with calm, and developed strategies for dealing with conflict without anger. The experience reinforced the importance of preparation, proactive action, and clear communication. Each challenge, confrontation, and small victory contributed to a deeper understanding of himself and the world around him. Despite the challenges, he never lost his connection to the river and the surrounding land. Each morning he walked along the banks, observing nature, feeling the breeze, and listening to the water. These moments of calm provided perspective and renewed energy. They reminded him why he had built the bridge in the first place and why protecting it mattered. The bridge was not just a structure. It was a part of his life, his family's safety, and the peace he cherished. Protecting it was an extension of protecting the life he had created. As the days turned into weeks, the pattern of respect and caution began to solidify. People understood the boundaries, accidents were avoided, and the bridge remained safe for family use. While occasional challenges arose, he was prepared, confident, and capable of handling them. The bridge had survived tests of weight, behavior, and human disregard. Its survival was a testament to careful planning, calm assertiveness, and the importance of proactive action. He also realized that the bridge had taught him about community dynamics. People often act out of convenience, ignorance, or habit rather than malice. By documenting issues, communicating clearly, and taking action, he could influence behavior positively. The experience strengthened his problem-solving skills, patience, and ability to anticipate challenges. These lessons extended beyond the bridge, affecting how he approached other conflicts, responsibilities, and interactions with neighbors. One evening, as the sun set and the river reflected the warm colors of dusk, he stood on the bridge, observing the quiet flow of water. The wooden planks were intact, the ropes secure, and the signs visible. His family crossed safely behind him, smiling and relaxed. For the first time in months, he felt a sense of accomplishment. The bridge, once a source of stress and fear, had become a symbol of resilience, careful planning, and personal responsibility. He knew that challenges would continue, but he felt ready to face them. Looking back, he realized the journey had changed him. He had learned the importance of clear boundaries, proactive measures, and calm assertiveness. He had discovered a quiet strength within himself, an ability to face challenges without losing composure. The bridge was no longer just a practical structure. It was a symbol of perseverance, responsibility, and the quiet courage to stand up for what is right. Each plank, each rope, and each sign represented lessons learned, victories earned, and challenges overcome as night fell. He sat by the riverbank, listening to the water and reflecting on the months of struggle. The bridge had tested him in ways he had never imagined. It had challenged his patience, his understanding of human behavior, and his ability to act decisively. Yet, it had also shown him that careful planning, calm communication, and determination could create meaningful change. The bridge had become more than wood and rope. It had become a part of his life, his family's safety, and his personal growth. He knew that whatever challenges lay ahead, he was prepared to meet them. Guided by the lessons of the bridge, and the following days brought a new kind of tension. Even though he had taken steps to reinforce the bridge, some people were still unwilling to respect the boundaries. Each morning he would wake up, anticipating the footsteps, the laughter, or the sound of tires approaching. It was exhausting, both mentally and physically. But he knew that retreating or ignoring the situation would only invite more problems. The bridge had become more than a crossing. It was a matter of safety, pride, and personal space. He could not let anyone endanger it again. He began to take a more structured approach. Every day, he walked the bridge and the paths leading to it, noting any signs of misuse. He took photographs, documented damage, and recorded incidents where people had ignored the rules. This careful record-keeping became his strategy, a way to show others that he was serious, that this was not a matter of simple annoyance, but a matter of responsibility and accountability. He also started keeping a journal, not just of incidents, but of his feelings, thoughts, and plans. Writing helped him stay calm and organized, reminding him why he was taking these actions and what he hoped to achieve. One afternoon, a group of villagers arrived at the bridge. They had heard about the new barriers and ropes and wanted to challenge them. He met them calmly, explaining the safety risks, showing the reinforced planks, and pointing out the signs. Some argued, claiming it was unfair or inconvenient. Others simply laughed, ignoring his words. He remained patient, listening without interrupting, responding with reason rather than anger. He explained that the bridge was private, that the measures were for safety, and that repeated misuse could lead to accidents. Slowly, the conversation shifted. Some began to understand. Others remained skeptical. But his calm firmness and clear communication created a sense of respect. They could see that he was not acting out of anger or selfishness, but out of responsibility. The work on the bridge itself was demanding. Reinforcing the planks, securing the ropes, and maintaining the structure required constant attention. Each repair reminded him of the importance of diligence. The bridge could not be left vulnerable. He invested hours in careful adjustments, testing the strength of each plank, tightening ropes, and ensuring that the gate worked properly. Every detail mattered. The small improvements added up, making the bridge stronger and safer. It was a labor of love, but also a necessity. His family's safety depended on it, and he could not allow shortcuts or neglect. Despite the constant effort, he began to notice small victories. People started approaching the bridge more cautiously. They read the signs carefully, asked permission, and respected the barriers. While not everyone complied, the general attitude shifted. It was a subtle change, but significant. The bridge was no longer completely overrun, and the likelihood of accidents had decreased. This progress reinforced his belief that consistent action, patience, and calm communication could create change. Each small success motivated him to continue. Even when challenges persisted, the challenges also brought opportunities for reflection. He realized that his assumptions about human behavior had been too optimistic. He had believed that polite requests and gentle reminders would be enough. Reality had taught him that some people act out of convenience, habit, or disregard, and that boundaries must be clearly defined and consistently enforced. This realization was uncomfortable, but necessary. It shaped his approach not just to the bridge, but to other areas of life where responsibility and respect intersected. He learned to anticipate potential problems, prepare solutions, and act proactively rather than reactively. Family life continued to be intertwined with the bridge. Each crossing was a lesson in vigilance, patience, and awareness. Children learned to be careful, adults guided them, and everyone remained alert. What once was simple now carried a weight of responsibility. He found himself explaining the importance of boundaries, the risks of misuse, and the consequences of neglect. These conversations, though born of frustration, fostered growth, understanding, and a sense of shared responsibility. His family became more aware of safety, communication, and respect for others' property. One morning, an incident tested his preparedness. A stranger attempted to rush across the bridge, ignoring the ropes and barriers. The planks creaked under the sudden weight, and for a moment, it felt as if the bridge might fail. He acted quickly, stepping forward to stop the person, guiding them safely back. The experience was frightening, but it also validated his precautions. The reinforcements, the ropes, and the gate had worked as intended. Without them, the situation could have been dangerous. This incident reinforced the importance of careful planning, vigilance, and proactive measures. In addition to physical precautions, he continued educating the community. He spoke with neighbors about the risks of overloading the bridge, the work involved in maintaining it, and the potential dangers of ignoring boundaries. Some people listened, some argued, but awareness increased. Even those who were initially skeptical began to understand that the bridge was not simply a convenience, but a matter of safety and responsibility. His consistent efforts were slowly shifting perceptions. The bridge, once a point of contention, was beginning to gain recognition as a symbol of caution, care, and personal responsibility. Throughout this period, he discovered personal strengths he had not recognized before. Patience, resilience, and calm assertiveness became essential tools. He learned to respond to challenges without anger, to communicate clearly, and to enforce boundaries consistently. Each confrontation and repair became an opportunity to practice these skills. The bridge had become more than wood and rope. It was a test of character, a teacher of lessons in patience, responsibility, and foresight. Despite the ongoing challenges, he maintained a connection to the natural world around him. Each morning, he walked along the river, observing the flow of water, listening to the wind in the trees and watching birds as they danced in the sunlight. These moments of calm provided perspective and renewed energy. They reminded him why he had built the bridge, why protecting it mattered, and why patience and careful action were necessary. Nature offered a sense of balance, a reminder that even amidst conflict and tension, life continued and peace could be found. As the weeks turned into months, his efforts began to show clear results. People approached the bridge with caution, respect, and understanding. Incidents decreased, and the bridge remained safe for family use. The physical reinforcements, combined with clear communication and consistent enforcement, had worked. Each day of progress reinforced his belief in the importance of preparation, patience, and calm action. He felt a growing sense of confidence and satisfaction, knowing that his hard work was paying off. The bridge also became a point of reflection on human behavior. He observed how people reacted to rules, boundaries, and responsibility. Some adjusted quickly, some resisted, and some gradually changed. He learned that change takes time, consistency, and clear demonstration of consequences. The experience offered lessons not only about managing property and safety, but also about understanding human nature, communication, and the importance of perseverance.